He screamed, "Just sign it," while pulling my shirt so hard I thought the fabric would tear, and 3 days later the judge saw the security footage and froze my entire $9 million estate that same day. My own son Kevin, 44 years old and supposedly a successful corporate lawyer, had his hands on me like I was some stranger on the street, trying to force me to sign documents that would give him and his wife complete control over everything I'd built in 69 years of life. If you've ever been physically attacked by someone you raised and loved, if you know what it feels like when your own blood tries to steal everything you've worked for through violence and intimidation, if you've ever had technology save you when human decency failed, settle in and listen close. Because this story's gonna show you that sometimes the people who think you're too old and weak to fight back are about to learn that preparation and paranoia can be more powerful than youth and greed. I'm Theodore Jackson, but everyone calls me Ted. 69 years old, been living in Atlanta my whole life, and spent the last 45 years building Jackson Properties from a single duplex rental into one of the largest minority-owned real estate companies in the Southeast. When I started, banks wouldn't lend to black folks for investment properties, and white sellers wouldn't deal with us directly. But I persisted, I adapted, and I built an empire worth $9 million through patience, intelligence, and never backing down from a fight. My wife Grace and I built this business together, working 18-hour days, reinvesting every penny of profit, and treating our tenants like family rather than income sources. Grace passed 4 years ago from a heart attack that took her too young at 62, and losing her nearly destroyed me. But I kept the business running because that's what she would have wanted. And because I knew our legacy was bigger than just the two of us. That minor stroke 6 months ago changed everything, even though the doctors said my recovery was remarkable and my cognitive function was completely intact. But Kevin and his wife Stephanie saw that stroke as an opportunity rather than a crisis. The opening they'd been waiting for to start their campaign to help me manage my affairs. Suddenly, every conversation became about simplifying my portfolio, reducing my responsibilities, and making sure everything was properly structured for the future. The warning signs were all there, but I ignored them because Kevin was my son, my only child, the boy I'd taught about real estate and business ethics and treating people with respect. I figured he was just worried about his old man, maybe feeling some natural anxiety about inheritance and family legacy. I never imagined that my own child would put his hands on me in violence, would traumatize me in my own home to steal what I'd spent a lifetime building. That security camera system I'd installed after the break-ins in our neighborhood last year was supposed to protect me from strangers, not from family. But when Kevin grabbed my shirt and screamed at me like I was his enemy instead of his father, those cameras captured every second of his assault, every word of his threats, every moment of his true character being revealed. And if you're wondering how a violent confrontation in my living room led to the complete freezing of a $9 million estate and criminal charges that are still pending 3 years later, well, hit that subscribe button on Grandpa's Diaries. Because this story's about to show you that sometimes the best revenge is simply letting people reveal who they really are when they think no one is watching. And sometimes justice comes from the most unexpected technology when human institutions fail you. Kevin used to be my business partner and my pride, the son who was going to carry Jackson Properties into the next generation with honor and integrity. When he was little, he'd come with me to collect rents on weekends, wearing a tiny suit that Grace had bought him, asking landlord questions and learning how to treat tenants with respect and dignity. "Daddy," he'd say, "when I grow up, I'm gonna buy buildings just like you, and I'm gonna help families find good places to live." I remember teaching him about real estate law when he was in high school, explaining the difference between being a slumlord and being a responsible property owner who actually cared about his community. "Son," I told him, "we're not just collecting rent checks, we're providing homes for people, maintaining neighborhoods, creating wealth that can be passed down to future generations. This business is about legacy, not just money. Kevin seemed to understand those lessons back then. He got his law degree from Emory University, joined a prestigious corporate firm downtown, and started building his own career while occasionally helping with Jackson Properties' legal work. When he married Stephanie, a sharp marketing executive from a prominent Atlanta family, Grace and I welcomed her with open arms, included her in our holiday celebrations, and treated her like the daughter we'd never had. But Stephanie changed Kevin, slowly and systematically, like poison working through his system. She came from old Atlanta money, the kind of black elite family that measured success in country club memberships and charity board positions rather than actual business accomplishments. To Stephanie, Jackson Properties was just a collection of assets to be liquidated rather than a legacy to be preserved and expanded. Kevin's wasting his talents managing rental properties, she'd tell anyone who would listen at family gatherings. He could be making partner at his law firm, but he's distracted by his father's little real estate hobby. It's holding him back from reaching his full potential. The real problems started after Grace died, and Kevin inherited her portion of the business. About 30% ownership that was supposed to help him understand the responsibility of maintaining our legacy. Instead of learning the business and respecting what his parents had built, Kevin started pushing for changes that would maximize short-term profits while destroying long-term value. He wanted to raise rents aggressively on long-time tenants, defer maintenance to boost cash flow, and sell off our best properties to real estate investment firms that would convert them into luxury developments. "Dad," he'd say during our monthly business meetings, "you're too sentimental about these properties. This is a business, not a charity. We need to optimize returns and minimize headaches." What Kevin didn't understand was that Jackson Properties wasn't just about making money. It was about providing affordable housing in Atlanta, neighborhoods where working families could build lives and communities. We had tenants who'd been with us for 20 years, who'd raised their children in our buildings, who trusted us to maintain their homes with dignity and respect. Kevin saw them as obstacles to profitability. I saw them as the reason profitability mattered. The first serious warning sign came about 8 months after my stroke, when Kevin brought his friend Marcus Williams to our monthly business meeting. Marcus was a financial advisor who specialized in wealth transition planning for elderly business owners, the kind of smooth-talking professional who used concern and expertise to separate people from their assets. "Mr. Jackson," Marcus said over coffee in my home office, "your son's been telling me about the challenges you're facing managing such a complex portfolio. Jackson Properties is an impressive enterprise, but it requires significant time and energy to maintain effectively. Have you considered the benefits of professional management or strategic partnerships?" I listened politely while Marcus explained various schemes for separating me from control of my business. Management companies that could handle day-to-day operations, investment partnerships that would provide liquidity while maintaining ownership, and succession planning strategies that would ensure a smooth transition when I was ready to step back. "The beauty of these arrangements," Marcus continued, "is that you can maintain ownership and oversight while reducing the operational burden. Think of it as letting your business work for you instead of you working for your business." Kevin was nodding along enthusiastically, asking questions about tax implications and legal structures, like he was already convinced this was the right path forward. But I'd been dealing with financial predators for 45 years, and I knew a con job when I heard one. These men weren't interested in helping me. They were interested in taking control of a profitable business under the guise of professional management. "Gentlemen," I said, setting down my coffee cup and looking directly at Marcus, "I appreciate your expertise, but Jackson Properties isn't for sale, isn't looking for partners, and isn't in need of outside management. I've been running this business successfully for decades, and I intend to continue doing so." The atmosphere in that office changed immediately. Marcus's professional smile became forced, and Kevin looked embarrassed, like I'd just failed some kind of test he'd set up for me. "Dad," Kevin said after Marcus left, "you're being stubborn. This isn't about selling the business. It's about creating systems that will protect your legacy and make your life easier. But I could see the frustration in Kevin's eyes, the same look he'd had as a teenager when I wouldn't let him quit his summer job or skip family obligations. The difference was that now he was a grown man who thought he knew better than his father, who thought my age and health issues made me incapable of running my own business. Over the next few months, Kevin's concern became more aggressive and more pointed. He'd bring articles about elderly business owners who'd lost everything because they waited too long to plan for succession. He'd mention stories about families who'd been destroyed by estate taxes and probate complications. He'd suggest that my stroke was a warning sign that I needed to act quickly before it was too late. "Dad, you're 69 years old and you've had a stroke," he'd say during our increasingly tense conversations. "What happens if you have another one? What happens if you become incapacitated and can't make business decisions? Everything you've built could be lost because you were too proud to plan ahead." The emotional manipulation was sophisticated and relentless. Kevin would alternate between expressing love and concern for my welfare and warning me about the terrible consequences of my stubbornness. Stephanie would join these conversations, adding her own pressure about family responsibilities and legacy protection. "Ted," she'd say, using that fake, concerned tone that rich people perfect, "we're not trying to take anything away from you. We're trying to make sure that what you've built survives and benefits the whole family. Kevin has the legal expertise to structure things properly, and I have the business background to help with strategic planning." Three. The ambush happened on a Tuesday afternoon in November, during what I thought was going to be a normal family visit. Kevin and Stephanie came over for dinner, and everything seemed pleasant enough at first. We talked about Kevin's work at the law firm, Stephanie's consulting projects, and their daughter Jasmine's progress at Spelman College. Just a normal family evening, or so I thought. But after dinner, when we moved to the living room for coffee, Kevin's demeanor changed completely. He pulled out a briefcase I hadn't noticed him bring in, filled with legal documents, and Stephanie positioned herself between me and my home office, like she was blocking my access to my own business records. "Dad," Kevin said, his voice suddenly cold and businesslike, "we need to have a serious conversation about Jackson Properties. Stephanie and I have been consulting with legal and financial experts, and we all agree that immediate action is required to protect your assets." He spread documents across my coffee table, power of attorney forms, business transfer agreements, management contracts, everything needed to take complete control of Jackson Properties. "These papers will ensure that your business continues to operate effectively while protecting your personal liability and estate tax exposure," he continued, but his tone made it clear this wasn't a request. "I'm not signing anything," I said, standing up from my chair and backing away from the table. "Kevin, we've discussed this before. I don't need help running my business, and I don't want outside management controlling my properties." That's when Stephanie revealed her true nature. "Ted, you're being ridiculous," she screamed, her mask of respectability completely gone. "You had a stroke 6 months ago. You're 69 years old. You can't continue pretending that you're still capable of managing a $9 million business." Kevin grabbed me by the shirt, his hands rough and violent in a way I'd never experienced from my own son. "Dad, you're gonna sign these papers right now, or we're gonna have you declared incompetent and take control anyway. At least this way, you maintain some dignity and involvement." I tried to pull away from him, but Kevin was 44 years old and strong, while I was still recovering from my stroke and not as steady as I used to be. He pulled my shirt so hard I thought the fabric would tear, yanking me toward the coffee table where the documents were waiting. "Just sign it," he screamed, his face contorted with rage and greed. "You stubborn old man, you're gonna lose everything because you're too proud to accept help." The physical assault lasted maybe 30 seconds, but it felt like an eternity. My own son, the boy I'd raised to respect his elders and treat people with dignity, had his hands on me in anger, trying to force me to sign away everything I'd worked for. The same hands that I'd taught to shake hands properly when making business deals were now being used to assault and intimidate me. "Stop it, Kevin!" I shouted, finally breaking free from his grip and stumbling backward. "Get your hands off me! Get out of my house!" But Kevin wasn't done. "You're gonna sign these papers, Dad, one way or another. We've already talked to the lawyers about having you declared incompetent. Your stroke, your age, your obvious inability to make rational decisions about your business. It's all documented. You can do this the easy way or the hard way." And what Kevin didn't know, what neither he nor Stephanie realized in their greed-fueled rage, was that every word of their threats and every moment of their assault was being recorded by the security cameras I'd installed throughout my house. High-definition video with crystal-clear audio, capturing their true characters for posterity and, as it turned out, for the legal system that would soon hold them accountable for their crimes. After Kevin and Stephanie left that night, carrying their unsigned documents and muttering threats about having me declared incompetent, I sat in my living room for hours, staring at the coffee table where my own son had tried to steal my life's work through violence and intimidation. The house felt different now, violated like a crime scene where trust had been murdered and family bonds had been shattered beyond repair. But unlike the confused and helpless old man Kevin thought he was dealing with, I had advantages he didn't know about. 45 years in real estate had taught me the importance of documentation, evidence, and legal preparation. The security camera system wasn't just about preventing break-ins. It was about protecting myself from all threats, including the ones that came from inside my own family. I spent that entire night reviewing the footage, watching my son's assault from multiple camera angles, listening to his threats and Stephanie's verbal abuse with the cold objectivity that comes from treating evidence as evidence rather than family trauma. The video was devastating, clear, unambiguous proof of elder abuse, assault, and attempted fraud that no lawyer could explain away or minimize. The next morning, I called Marcus Johnson, the best criminal defense attorney in Atlanta, and a man who'd helped me with various business legal issues over the years. "Marcus," I said, "I need to see you immediately, and I need you to bring someone who specializes in elder abuse and financial crimes. My family just committed several felonies against me, and I have it all on video." Marcus came to my house that afternoon with Detective Ray Collins, a specialist in elder abuse cases who'd seen every variation of family financial predation imaginable. When I showed them the security footage, their reactions were immediate and visceral. "Mr. Jackson," Detective Collins said after watching Kevin grab my shirt and scream at me, "this is one of the clearest cases of elder abuse and attempted financial fraud I've ever seen. Your son committed assault and battery, criminal intimidation, and attempted theft by coercion. The fact that it's all on high-definition video makes this a prosecutor's dream case." We spent 3 hours that day documenting everything that had happened, not just the assault, but the months of psychological manipulation and financial pressure that had led up to it. Marcus explained my legal options: criminal charges, civil lawsuits, and emergency court orders to protect my assets from further threats. "The beauty of having this on video," Marcus said, "is that there's no he said, she said element to worry about. The jury will see exactly what happened, hear exactly what was said, and understand exactly what your son's motivations were. This isn't a family dispute. This is a crime." We filed the paperwork the next day: criminal complaints for assault and attempted elder abuse, civil lawsuits for intentional infliction of emotional distress and attempted fraud, and emergency petitions for restraining orders and asset protection. But the most important document was the motion for immediate asset freeze, requesting that the court prevent Kevin and Stephanie from accessing or controlling any portion of Jackson Properties pending the outcome of our legal action. "Judge Williams," Marcus argued in our emergency hearing, "the defendants have already demonstrated their willingness to use violence and intimidation to steal the plaintiff's assets. Given the substantial value of Jackson Properties and the clear evidence of criminal intent, this court must act immediately to prevent further financial abuse." The video footage spoke for itself. Judge Denise Williams, a no-nonsense African-American woman who'd built her career prosecuting white-collar crimes, watched 30 seconds of Kevin's assault before ordering an immediate freeze on all Jackson Properties assets. "I have rarely seen such clear evidence of elder abuse motivated by pure greed," she said from the bench. "Mr. Kevin Jackson and Mrs. Stephanie Jackson are hereby restrained from any contact with the plaintiff or his business interests. All Jackson Properties assets are frozen, pending full investigation of these serious criminal allegations." The gavel came down at 4:17 p.m. on a Friday afternoon, and by 5 p.m., every bank account, every property deed, and every business contract associated with Jackson Properties was under court protection. Kevin's plan to steal my business had backfired spectacularly, leaving him with no access to the assets he'd tried to control and facing criminal charges that could send him to prison. The criminal trial took place 8 months later, and the courtroom was packed with people who'd heard about the case through media coverage and community outrage. Elder abuse cases involving wealthy families don't usually generate much public interest, but something about a successful businessman being assaulted by his lawyer's son had captured people's attention and anger. Kevin and Stephanie had hired the most expensive criminal defense team in Atlanta, lawyers who specialized in defending white-collar criminals and reducing felony charges to misdemeanors. Their strategy was to portray the whole incident as a family disagreement that had been blown out of proportion by a vindictive father who couldn't accept his son's legitimate business advice. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury," Kevin's lead attorney said during opening statements, "this case isn't about elder abuse or financial fraud. This is about a concerned son trying to help his aging father make rational decisions about a complex business portfolio. Mr. Theodore Jackson is a proud man who doesn't want to admit that his recent stroke has affected his judgment and decision-making abilities. But their strategy collapsed the moment the security footage was played in court. The video was devastating, crystal clear evidence of Kevin grabbing my shirt, screaming threats, and trying to force me to sign documents while Stephanie hurled verbal abuse from the background. "You stubborn old man!" Kevin's voice echoed through that courtroom, his face contorted with rage and greed. "You're gonna lose everything because you're too proud to accept help." The jury watched in stunned silence as their concerned son narrative crumbled before their eyes. This wasn't a family trying to help an elderly patriarch. This was a criminal assault motivated by pure financial greed. Detective Collins testified about the months of investigation that had revealed Kevin and Stephanie's elaborate plan to take control of Jackson Properties. They'd consulted with multiple financial advisors about liquidating real estate assets, spoken with business brokers about selling the company, and even approached potential buyers about acquiring specific properties. The defendants weren't trying to help Mr. Jackson manage his business, Detective Collins explained to the jury. They were planning to steal it, dismantle it, and profit from its destruction. The assault we see on video was the culmination of a long-term scheme to separate an elderly man from his life's work. Marcus Johnson's cross-examination of Kevin was masterful and brutal. "Mr. Jackson," he said, "can you explain to the jury why helping your father required grabbing his shirt and screaming at him?" "I was frustrated," Kevin replied weakly. "I was trying to make him understand that he needed help." "And you thought physical violence was an appropriate way to provide that help?" Kevin's lawyer objected, but the damage was done. The jury had seen the video, heard the testimony, and understood exactly what Kevin's definition of help actually meant. Judge Williams's verdict was swift and comprehensive. Kevin was convicted of elder abuse, assault and battery, and attempted fraud. Stephanie was convicted as an accessory and co-conspirator. Their sentences included 2 years in prison, 5 years probation, and a joint order to pay $500,000 in damages for the trauma and legal expenses they'd caused. But the most important part of the judgment was the permanent protection order for Jackson Properties. This court finds that the defendants pose an ongoing threat to the plaintiff's financial security and personal safety. Judge Williams declared. They are permanently banned from any involvement in Jackson Properties, permanently restrained from contact with the plaintiff, and permanently excluded from any inheritance of the plaintiff's assets. The courtroom erupted in applause when the verdicts were read. Kevin and Stephanie sat in stunned silence, probably realizing for the first time that their greed had cost them everything: their freedom, their reputations, and any chance of benefiting from the business they'd tried to steal. 3 years have passed since that courtroom victory, and Jackson Properties is thriving under the management structure I established with the court's protection. The business has grown to over $11 million in value, expanding into new neighborhoods while maintaining our commitment to affordable housing and community development. Kevin and Stephanie served their prison sentences and have been making their court-ordered payments on schedule, probably because they know that any default would result in additional criminal charges and extended jail time. The $500,000 judgment has funded security upgrades, legal protections, and a scholarship program for students pursuing careers in real estate and business ethics. My granddaughter Jasmine visits me regularly now, having chosen her grandfather's values over her parents' greed. She's studying business at Spelman College and will inherit Jackson Properties when she graduates, along with detailed instructions about maintaining its mission and community connections. Unlike her parents, Jasmine understands that real wealth comes from building something meaningful rather than stealing something valuable. "Granddad," she asked me last weekend while we were reviewing property financial reports, "do you ever regret what happened with Dad and Stephanie?" I thought about that question while we walked through one of our apartment complexes, greeting tenants who've been with us for decades, families who see Jackson Properties as more than just a landlord, but as a partner in their community. "Baby girl," I finally said, "I regret that your parents chose greed over gratitude, but I don't regret protecting what your grandmother and I built together. Sometimes the hardest lesson in business isn't about making money, it's about learning who you can trust with what you've made." The security cameras are still recording, still protecting, still ensuring that my home and business remain safe from people who might mistake age for weakness or illness for vulnerability. That investment in technology saved everything I'd worked for and revealed the true character of people I thought I knew. I learned something important during those months of legal battles and family destruction. Sometimes, the people who think your age and health issues make you an easy target are about to discover that preparation and paranoia can be more powerful than youth and strength. Kevin and Stephanie thought my stroke had made me weak and confused, someone who could be physically intimidated into giving up everything I'd earned. Instead, my experience had taught me to document everything, trust carefully, and always have evidence when words weren't enough. The real estate business is booming now, managed by professionals who understand that Jackson Properties is about legacy, not just profit. Our tenants know they're protected, our community knows we're committed, and my granddaughter knows she's inheriting something valuable that goes far beyond money. Judge Williams's asset freeze was lifted 2 years ago, but the protection orders remain in place permanently. Kevin and Stephanie can never again threaten my business or my personal safety, and they'll never benefit from what they tried to steal through violence and intimidation. Tell me in the comments, have you ever had family members try to use your health issues or age against you? Have you ever discovered that technology could protect you when human decency failed? Have you ever realized that sometimes the most important investment you can make is in security systems that capture the truth when people think they can get away with lies? And if this story reminded you that age and illness don't equal vulnerability when you're prepared and protected, hit that subscribe button for Grandpa's Diaries. I've got more stories about fighting back when people underestimate you, about the power of evidence over emotion, and about learning that sometimes the best revenge is simply letting people reveal who they really are when they think no one is watching. Technology may change, but greed stays the same, and sometimes a simple security camera can deliver justice that no lawyer could argue with. I'll see you next week with another cup of coffee, And another lesson about never letting anyone convince you that being older means being weaker. Sometimes it just means being smarter about who you trust and how you protect yourself.